Hi everyone and welcome. Today I have another unboxing for you. If you haven't caught up or this is your first time seeing it, this is actually a part 2 of an unboxing that I started where I showed a set of Neopastel that I got. But this is a gouache set that I'm very excited about. I've done 2 other unboxings of gouache sets. Holbein is one of my favorite brands. This isn't sponsored. It's just a brand that I absolutely love. And these are the Traditional Colors of Japan Irodori Spring set. The first time that I was introduced to this was through my friend Stephanie at Demi Godette on Instagram. And I got the winter set inspired by her. And this is another one that she also showed me. I haven't tried all the colors, but I'm very, very excited to walk through this set with you, especially because it's spring where I am, so it feels fitting. But look at just these lush colors. Very excited to dig in. I'm trying to familiarize myself a little bit more with gouache because I'm more familiar with acrylic gouache, and I thought that this was a perfect opportunity to do just that. Let's get started. So on the left side here, you can see the unboxing that I did with the Neopastel set. And I'm just going to do the gouache palettes, painting, whatever, on this right side. This is the Pith sketchbook, which I quite like for mixed media work. I'll link it below, as well as, of course, this set. And I think it would be fun to just start with the reds and then go up towards the blues and neutrals. This is a vermilion. One thing that I really like about Holbein is how rich in pigmentation their paints are usually. And one of the things that kind of surprised me in the first set of Irodori gouache, regular gouache that I got, is that a lot of the pigments were more transparent than I thought they would be. So I'm quite curious to see what these are like, if they also are quite transparent or not. This is a beautiful orange-red. I could definitely see myself using this one. And of course, gouache has the capacity to be used very thinly, more like watercolor. But it is, in the end, quite different because the pigments move differently in gouache than they do in watercolor. I find that they move slightly less in gouache than they do in watercolor. But of course, the biggest difference is the opaqueness of gouache in general as compared to watercolor. This is a color I absolutely love, pale coral. I'm very curious to see how it'll look on the page. I have a color that's similar to this in my acrylic gouache, but I've never tried it with regular gouache. And I'm kind of skipping over the using a palette. It's just a fun way to play around. I often like to do that, just to go immediately onto my page with my paint, especially if I'm having a lot of fear around making a mark on a page. Just going directly in and using your page as its own palette can sometimes assuage that fear. Very beautiful. Love this. Quite opaque, which is not surprising to me because it's, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a mix of pigments with some white in it. And white is usually quite opaque. I can check. So I showed this already in one of the previous videos, is that you can get some information about the pigments on the tube itself. I was correct, it has a little bit of PW6, which is white, and otherwise it's some other pigment. And I guess they consider it semi-transparent, even though I don't know, it looks pretty opaque to me. Apologies, I just realized that I was filming that and that it was blurry. So I'm just going to play over the voiceover of what I was saying and point to the ones that I was talking about. I think that this is going to look quite beautiful with this yellow. Looks like a warm yellow, but you really get a sense of spring with these colors for sure. We also have a colder yellow, it looks like, which is good because actually this set, I'm getting the sense that it's a very good, maybe a good beginner set, because you have red, yellow, blue, and different types of yellow and different types of blue, which can give you a good range of hues if you're just starting out on color mixing. So as compared to the winter set, which I showed you last time, the winter set is it's just not made as much for color mixing. This is really if you want to build your own unique color palettes. I feel like this one would be a much better choice in that respect. A very cold yellow. Almost has that really green undertone. And a light ochre, which is always a very good neutral. And I think will work well actually next to this pink. I'm adding just a touch of water here. In this one I actually put a little bit too much maybe, just to make it ever so slightly creamier. I'm going to add just a tiny bit more paint to this light ochre one because I really want to get a little bit more of that opacity. But I also suspect that this one is maybe semi-transparent as well, like the pigment itself. Oops. All right, let's get into these greens. We have a pale patina. Very intriguing. Oh, wow. That's a very interesting green. I would say this is not the kind of green that I usually go towards. But, you know, it could work. Like, with this pink and the ochre. It definitely has some white in it, and so it looks slightly more opaque, I'd say. A definitely vibrant spring green. This one I'm quite excited about, Seedling. I think this is the kind of green that I would really go towards. Yeah. Very beautiful. This is really, I guess, what is more known as a spring green. I said spring green for this one, but I just meant like it's the kind of green that you could find. But this is really, when you're talking about paint, this is more the kind of spring green that most people mean. And for a long time, I didn't realize the importance of having greens in your paint palette because I always figured, oh, well, you can mix it with blue and yellow, which absolutely you can. But also having a set of greens separately from your blues and yellows can be wonderful because green is one of the colors that as humans we see the greatest variety. I guess it's just a reflection of the fact that we are animals who, you know, nature is just our home, whether we consider it to be home or not. we did evolve to see a lot of different greens, and so having some additional greens in your palette can be very, very useful. So this color is the one that I fell in love with when my friend Stephanie allowed me to try some of her paints. I wasn't able to go through all of them, but I did immediately zero in on this one, which is called a Myosotis blue. I say it in French, myosotis, because that's a type of flower. I don't think there's the same equivalent word in English, I'm not sure. Anyway, a beautiful blue that I find personally very inspiring and very soothing. And what's nice is, you know, we've been working with some warmer colors here, and so now you're getting some of the cooler colors with these blues, greens, and purples. Dayflower blue, I think I also tried this one. Oh yes, I did. I love this color. And it reminds me a little bit of, I could do a side-by-side comparison, but of the blue that I have in my Rebecca Holbein set, which is an acrylic gouache set, not regular gouache, but she picked a specific kind of blue called, I think, smalt blue, and it reminds me a little bit of that, though I think this one is very slightly darker. But it's a very beautiful blue, and I think it could create some really lovely mixes. You would probably, with this red, get something that was more in the black-gray range rather than a vibrant purple. But that can make for some really beautiful paintings with a lot of complexity, obviously. We have some, oh, I was going to go for this one, but I skipped over the purple. The purple is called Bellflower. Oh, I remember this one. I definitely tried it that day with my friend, and I also fell in love with this one. So beautiful. Definitely the kind of color I would have hated a couple years ago. But I absolutely love it now. And look at it next to that green. That's a really beautiful mix. Very opaque. So I'm finding actually that in this set, the colors or pigments look more opaque than the winter set. I think so. And now we are going to go with the silver gray, a nice neutral. My brush and water are a little dirty, but it's not so bad that it's like completely changing the colors. I do recommend, though, trying to clean your brush. I just have a bad habit to not change my water frequently enough. Sometimes I'll have 2 pots of water, so then it's easier to grab clean water when I need it. And finally, antique silver. So if you'll remember, the winter set had a gold, and I think that's one of the characteristics of these special Irodori sets, is that they all have one shimmer, which is kind of cool. I'm very intrigued to see if I'll like this. So let's try it out. It looks very pigmented. Definitely quite beautiful. I'm always a little bit on the fence with shimmers. I don't use them very frequently, but when I do, I like them to have, I don't know, a kind of more like a real shimmer effect, not that sort of kind of plasticky shimmer effect. I don't know if you can see what I mean, but all right. So I brought along the acrylic gouache smalt blue just to compare with that other one. So they do look quite similar, but there is a slight hue shift. You can see that this one that I'm using now has a little bit more red to it, and this one has a little bit more yellow. But they're definitely in the similar range. So this is the smalt blue acrylic gouache. Yeah, I wrote that really badly. And then these are the Spring Irodori set. I also added one more little layer of the ochre. It's currently drying, but I think you can get also a sense of this nice silver as it's drying. Definitely very spring colors. I think could be really fun in order to, you know, have a starting palette. I think it could be pretty fun. I would maybe get one other blue. Or, sorry, scratch that. If I really wanted to use this as a starting set, I would also buy an additional pink, like a red, but that's more like of a primary magenta, if you want to be able to get those kind of bright purple mixes. I'm actually just, as one little tiny attempt, we'll just try to see what this red with this blue looks like when mixed together. They look quite complementary to me, so I think we're going to get sort of a darker colored gray. Yeah. So you see how it is kind of a sort of purplish color, but it's more of a muted purple. And then if you add a little bit more blue, it's all just like different ranges of this beautiful colored gray, which is why I was saying that I really love that they put these two together, because there's some beautiful colors that you can get when you mix complementaries like this. I mean, look at that range of hues. Something also more brownish. Really lovely. And of course, since it is regular gouache, it can reactivate once wet, whereas my acrylic gouache will not. And I can kind of show you maybe what that looks like by lifting some of the paint on this green. See that, how I'm just getting a little bit of that transparency. And lifting some of those pigments back onto my brush. Whereas if my acrylic gouache is dry, You might not be totally dry. Yeah, it's not totally dry. So this defeats the purpose of me showing you the difference, because you need to not be impatient and actually wait for it to dry to prove the point. But I can guarantee you that once this is actually dry, you cannot pick up that paint. Whereas this was very dry, and I was still able to pick that up a little bit. But the fact that you can do this can be nice because you can soften edges of shapes if you find that the edges of shapes are too stark. So that can be pretty nice. I'll of course leave a link below. It's Jackson's affiliate link. You get 10% off if you create an account and it's your first order. But obviously no pressure. Like, I'm not sponsored. I'm just trying to share things that I enjoy. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got a little bit creative in your sketchbook, or not that you will after this video. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to see some more videos like this, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye, everybody.